Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. My name is Todd Zagoric. I'll be your service coordinator this morning. My pronouns are he, his, and him. However you're feeling this morning, if you're happy to be here, if you're sleepy, if you're confused, if you feel irritated, it really doesn't matter. There's a place for you here, and we're glad that you're here. We're going to make this morning a celebration of community support, friendship, kindness, inspiration, hopefully whatever it is that you need this morning. If this is your first time visiting with us, either in person or online, we have a part-time minister, Reverend Tony Lorenzen, and he's usually in the pulpit every other week. But on weeks when he's not here, like this week, we either have a guest speaker, as we do this morning, or even members of our own congregation will present the service. And today we welcome Darlene Kascak. Darlene is sitting here in the front row. Darlene will be our guest speaker. She's the Educational Outreach Ambassador of the Kascak Tribal Nation and a member of the staff at the Institute of American Indian Studies in Washington, Connecticut, as well as a member of the Kascak Women's Traditional Council. And she's going to speak to us about the role of women in indigenous cultures in Connecticut. Indigenous women in the homelands of what is now Connecticut held central roles in political, economic, and cultural life. Their leadership shaped community decisions, land stewardship, and family continuity. In many nations, lineage passed through women, giving them influence in selecting and advising leaders. And we welcome Darlene. I'm looking forward very much to her message today. And as always, we honor with gratitude the Pagusset, Pequannock, Schaghticoke, and Wappinger tribes on whose ancestral homelands we gather. The Housatonic River watershed, within which this land is situated, has long been home to many indigenous communities. We recognize these tribes' enduring presence, their care for this land, and their continuing sovereignty. May our presence here honor those who came before and those who will follow in care of this sacred land. And now, before we get started, let's greet each other, either here in the fellowship hall or waving to the folks joining us online. A few announcements this morning. After the service, there are a couple of things going on at 11:30 after coffee hour. The Pathways Through Membership meeting will be downstairs at the lower level here in the fellowship hall, 11:30, and choir rehearsal will be here in the fellowship hall, also at 11:30. And next week, May the 17th, following the Sunday service, down in the lower level, the Caring Circle will be presenting a program about the 5 Wishes document. 5 Wishes it's a living will, and it talks about personal, emotional, and spiritual needs as well as your medical wishes. It's written in everyday language, making it easy to understand and complete. It allows your family or caregiver to know exactly what you want so they don't have to guess. And a short video will be shown about the document with time for discussion and questions. Information for registration can be found in the order of service, or if you have questions, I think you can find Lou Ann Heller, and she'll be able to answer that for you. So that's next week after the service. There she is. And finally, it's not too late to make your pledge for the coming year. We are wrapping up the pledge drive, and so far we are up to 182,000 in pledges. Thank you. It's very generous of everyone. And we really need to know, we need those pledges because it's budget season. We've got the annual meeting upon us. The annual meeting is going to be about a month from now, and we need to have the budget. We're putting the budget together right now. So anyway, that's important that we have those pledges for the purpose of putting the budget together. If you haven't had a chance to pledge yet, I just happen to have coincidentally brought some pledge forms with me. So if you want to buttonhole me after the service, I can make sure that you get one. And thank you very much. It's really with I feel so awed and impressed and grateful for people's gratitude because because these aren't debts that we're collecting. Nobody owes money. These are donations. This comes from the generosity of your hearts, and it's an expression of what the place means to you and to each of us. So anyway, thank you very much. For other announcements and information, you can see your order of service or our weekly email newsletter this week at UU Danbury, or you can go to the website at any time, uudanbury.org, and that'll give you a complete list of everything that's going on here at the congregation. We'll start with our chalice lighting. We make this time and place holy simply by being together, and we start by lighting the flaming chalice as a symbol of our UU traditions. So please join me in reciting the words to our chalice lighting, which is on the screen. And I will do my best to light the chalice. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. Thank you. Now, do we have a slide with the covenant affirmation? I know this is kind of new to us. Yep, there it is. Okay. Unitarian Universalists don't have a creed or a dogma. What we have is promises that we make to each other about how we practice loving community together. And that's what holds us together. So let's renew those promises now with the words on the screen. May this flame cast its light toward the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we are going, but a place we are creating. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you're able for our hymn of welcome. Enter, rejoice, and come in, number 361, if you happen to have a hymnal. Like our families with children had other plans today, but we are nevertheless going to do the children's affirmation. So please join me in the children's affirmation. Get your U's ready. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. We have a story today, which I think you will enjoy, even if you are not a child anymore. The story is called Chooch Helped. It's a children's book, and it was written by Andrea Rogers, illustrated by Rebecca Lee Coons. They are both members of the Cherokee Nation. And it's a Caldecott Prize winner as well. Have we got it? All right, so it'll be on the screen.
Chooch helped. written by Andrea L. Rogers, illustrated by Rebecca Lee Coons. This is the baby. We call him Chooch. The word for boy or son in Cherokee is achuja. The word for girl is agehuja, but everyone just calls me Sissy. Chooch isn't really a baby anymore. We just celebrated his second birthday. Still, whenever Chooch makes a mess, everyone says, "He's just oosty. Let him help." It seems to me, oosty Chooch just gets away with everything. Elise painted a mural. Chooch helped. Edoda tuned up the bicycles. Chooch helped. Edgy sewed pucker toe moccasins. Chooch helped. Edudu played guitar. Chooch helped. Eduji made grape dumplings. Chooch helped. Ojinali gigged crawdads. Chooch helped. Eloji planted a garden. Chooch helped. I tried to make a clay pot. Chooch helped. "Halazdi!" I shouted. Chooch cried. My parents yelled, "Shouting is no help." I went to my room. I cried. Chooch helped. My parents called us into the dining room. "We're sorry we yelled." They hugged me. "We want to show you something." "You know," Mom said, "when you were Usti, you also used to help." Chooch learns by watching. You're one of his most important teachers. I am? I wondered. "Chooch," I said, "want to learn how to make a pot?" I gave Chooch a ball of clay. He rolled and poked, mushed and pushed. Finally, he had a pot. He wanted to put it in the window to dry. I helped. The end. Is there someone in your life that you can help teach?
I like the story. I think that if you need a gift for a child or a young child or grandchild, you might consider that. And even though we haven't, oh, I see a hand up, Suze.
I just wanted to say that the author and the illustrator were just at WestCon 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, they were. They were. You probably couldn't hear that online, but Sue's just pointed out that the author and the illustrator were both present a couple of weeks ago at WestCon, and they did a presentation, and they had copies of the book. Yeah, it's thanks. All right, even though we don't have any kids to parade downstairs, I don't see why we can't sing This Little Light of Mine anyway. So let's go ahead.
Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
It's time for our milestones, silent and spoken. I invite those of you who would like to silently acknowledge something, a joy, a sorrow, a milestone, anything that you've been carrying in your mind or your heart, and you'd like to make a symbolic acknowledgement. Please come forward and place a stone in the water.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the head, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
When you share your time and your financial support with the congregation, you're giving gifts to each other. Everyone gives, everyone receives. And together we give to the wider community around us. The greeters will now pass the collection plates. If you're visiting with us, you're not expected to give. Your presence here is your gift. There are many ways to give. You can also use the QR code that is on the screen. You can go to the website at any time, uudanbury.org. Thank you very much. I think at the same time, we will also pass the basket around for the food collection for the Dorothy Day House. Our reading selection today is from Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Children, language, lands, almost everything was stripped away, stolen when you weren't looking because you were trying to stay alive. In the face of such loss, one thing our people could not surrender was the meaning of land. In the settler mind, land was property, real estate, capital, or natural resources. But to our people, it was everything: identity, the connection to our ancestors, the home of our non-human kinfolk, our pharmacy, our library, the source of all that sustained us. Our lands were where our responsibility to the world was enacted, sacred ground. It belonged to itself. It was a gift, not a commodity, so it could never be bought or sold. These are the meanings people took with them when they were forced from their ancient homelands to new places. And now I'm going to turn the microphone over to our guest, Darlene Kascak, Education Outreach Director at the Institute for American Indian Studies in Washington, Connecticut. By the way, if you have never visited the Institute, it's a wonderful place. They've got a great museum there. Recently, there was a group of us who went there for a tour. It was an auction-sponsored tour. Gary Mummert sponsored it in the auction. And it was just really, it was interesting and it was fun. Anyway, I'm so pleased to have Darlene here with us. And I will get out of her way.
Yeah, I'm kind of short. So, thank you for inviting me here today for this Mother's Day reflection. I'm going to title it The Circle of Care. On this Mother's Day, I want to begin by acknowledging that today can hold many different emotions. For some, it's a day of deep gratitude and joy. For others, it can bring grief, longing, or complicated memories. In Indigenous ways of understanding, we often speak of this as the circle of life. The circle has room for many experiences as at once, and no one stands outside of it. When in a circle, no one is above you and no one is below you. You are all equal. As we gather today, we recognize that this moment, like a circle, can hold celebration and sorrow side by side. So, my name is Darlene Kascak, and I am many, many things. I'm a citizen of the Kascak tribal nation. That's one of 5 tribes that exist here in Connecticut today. And I've been chosen to be a traditional Native American storyteller. Storytellers have always been in place in our communities. Storytellers are the keepers of the knowledge. We preserve, we protect, and we pass down our history, our knowledge, our way of doing things. And it was the women who also, the storytellers, who also taught the children through cute little stories about misbehaving animals that talk. But it was a great way to teach them these valuable lessons that they needed to know. For example, The Boy Who Cried Wolf is a story that in your culture you've probably heard. Do you still remember that lesson in that story? So we didn't beat our children when they did something wrong. We whipped out a story about an animal that did, something similar and the consequences for that bad behavior. It's a beautiful way to teach your children. So I also serve on the Kascak Women's Traditional Council. We've always had women's councils in place in our communities. And I want to say clearly from the beginning that I do not speak for all Native people or all Indigenous nations. There are hundreds of different nations, each with their own histories, own culture, and ways of understanding the world. Today I speak from my own connection, my own responsibility, and the teachings that I have received from my community. I am honored to share my story with you today, especially on Mother's Day. Because honoring mothers is not simply about individual recognition. It's about acknowledging the networks of care that make life possible. It's about recognizing who stood in that circle for us when we needed it the most. When we talk about mothers in my community, we are not only talking about biological motherhood, we are talking about responsibility. We are talking about presence. We are talking about who steps forward into the circle when care calls out. In many Indigenous worldviews, we have long understood that there are more than two ways of being a human being. Many recognize multiple genders, including two-spirit people, a person who has the body of one gender and the spirit of another. This term is used by some Indigenous people and describes those whose identities move beyond colonial ideas of gender and who have long held respected roles in our community life for their ability to look at things from multiple perspectives at once. Many two-spirit people serve as caregivers, teachers, healers, and leaders in our communities. What binds us together is not gender alone, but responsibility, the shared commitment to show up, to nurture, and to carry into the sacred places where the Spirit calls us to tend to one another. I'm going to share a bit of my story with you and how motherhood helped me become the woman that I am today. My father was a shadow, gone before I could learn the shape of his presence. My mother lived inside a twisted mind that bent the world into something unrecognizable. She drifted in and out of my life like the weather, sometimes gone for years, sometimes near yet unreachable. When she was home, there was a distance where warmth should have been. In the way of my people, no child is truly motherless. When one person cannot carry the responsibility of motherhood alone, the circle widens. It was the women in my family and community who stepped into the circle and rose up around my life. My sister, my grandmother, my aunties, my elders, each offering what they could carry. They held me steady, taught me with gentleness, guided me with patience, and stayed when staying mattered the most. They also taught me forgiveness. They helped me see my mother not as a wound, but as a woman living with what we call a twisted mind, a mind that shaped her experience of the world differently, a mind that made responsibility and presence difficult. Through them, I learned that mothering is not a single role, but a shared promise, a living circle of hands and hearts that refuses to let a child fall through the cracks. Because of what they gave me, I now step into the circle for others, offering love, guidance, presence to those who may need help learning how to live, how to love, and how to belong. In this way, the circle remains strong and unbroken. This understanding helps shape how I see Indigenous history, particularly the roles of women in our communities. I want to begin with women as sustainers of daily life. So much of survival does not happen in dramatic moments, but in daily labor, in repetition, consistency, and care. In Indigenous communities, women carry the responsibility of feeding families, caring for children, tending homes, and maintaining the rhythms of community life. This work was not separate from spirituality or values. It was the foundation of which life was built. Providing food meant ensuring survival. Teaching children how to care for Mother Earth means investing in the future. Holding families together means keeping that circle intact. Indigenous women carried this responsibility through generations of upheaval, through displacement, loss, and attempts to erase our culture. Still, they fed the people. Still, they raised the children. Still, they found ways to keep families connected when everything else was under threat. Their work often went unrecorded, yet without it, the circle could not have lasted this long. And on this Mother's Day, I think how familiar that labor still feels. How many mothers and caregivers today carry similar responsibilities, often quietly, often without recognition, but with enormous impact. Another role I want to acknowledge that women held is being knowledge keepers and teachers. Before knowledge was written down, it was carried within the circle. It lived in stories, practices, and relationships. Women taught children how to live by inviting them into daily life, by showing them how to listen, how to care, and how to understand their responsibilities to one another and the world around them. It was the women who taught children how to be good human beings. Teaching happened through cooking, storytelling, song, gentle correction, patience, and by example. Knowledge was passed down by word of mouth, hand to hand, generation to generation, not as information, but as relationship. Women carried memories when systems tried to erase it. They held on to their history, names, places, language, and obligations, preserving what was needed to continue and to keep renewal possible. In many ways, this reflects how faith itself is passed down. We don't learn belief only from words, but by watching people, watching how they live, how they love, and how they respond to one another. Mothering, in this sense, is more than instruction. It's an invitation into relationship and belonging. It's an invitation into the circle. The third role I want to speak about is women as leaders. Often we think of leadership, we imagine titles, authority, or visibility. But in many Indigenous communities, leadership looked different. It was relational. It was rooted in responsibility rather than power. Both men and women shared relationship roles in our communities. Women led through influence, wisdom, and the ability to hold people together. They had women's councils who had authority in the decision-making process. They advised, they mediated, they shaped the moral direction of the families and the community. This kind of leadership required deep awareness of people, of timing, and the health and well-being of the community as a whole. It was leadership rooted in care, accountability, and memory. This form of leadership equality did not require domination. It required trust. It required listening deeply. It required the ability to hold many needs and perspectives at once and to think beyond oneself. Colonial systems often failed to see this as leadership because it did not fit their definitions of male leadership roles. But within our community, it was essential. Women helped keep the circle intact and well balanced. I think many of us recognize this kind of leadership in our own lives. Women who guided us without titles. Women who noticed when something was wrong. Women who held families together through difficult times. This, too, is motherhood. I want to invite you now into reflection. Think about the people who stood in the circle for you. Think about who sustained your life when it was fragile. Who remained present when others could not? These people may not have been your biological mother. They may have been sisters, grandmothers, aunties, elders, teachers, or neighbors. Some may be with you, others may live in memory. On this Mother's Day, we honor them, not only by remembering them, but by recognizing the responsibility that we now carry to widen the circle when others need care. As I close, I want to offer gratitude. Gratitude for Indigenous women past and present whose labor, wisdom, and love kept the circle intact through generations of hardship. Gratitude for mothers and caregivers here today whose quiet work holds families and communities together, even when it goes unnoticed. And gratitude for the reminder that none of us were raised alone. We are here because sometimes one person, sometimes many people, have stepped into the circle for us with care. May we honor that gift that they gave us by stepping in for others, shaping circles of care within our own communities and carrying that care forward. May we keep that circle wide. May we keep that circle strong. And may we choose again and again to hold one another in love. Miigwech.
Thank you, Darlene. I've been mispronouncing your last name, Kascak.
My mother still can't say it, so don't worry.
I won't make that mistake again. Family names matter. Anyway, thank you very much. And thanks also to Jerry Phelps for the music, to everybody who puts these programs together. Thanks to Barb Myers and Anya Westenberg at the tech table, and Keith Henderson, who did a lot of the tech work as well. And Keith undoubtedly set up the chairs, as he does every week. Our greeters, Ann Krieg and Joanne Davidson today. And then and Randy Becker, who jumped to his feet to carry around the basket because there were no children to do it. And I know Randy, in fact, used to be a child, so that was. I said child, not childish. And thanks to Sherry Kiriakou, who puts together the order of service every week. To Melody Levy, who always does the covers and did this one in particular. They're always beautiful. To Gina Cassetta, who was filling in for Sierra Marie with the family ministry team in Sierra Marie's absence. I saw before the service, I saw Stanley and Luann Heller in the kitchen. I saw Jean Cannon in the kitchen. I think I saw Annie Chenal in the kitchen briefly too, as they often are, getting ready for the coffee hour. And thanks to all of you for your attendance and for your generosity, and to everybody else who I have undoubtedly forgotten. So now, please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, but the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. And now please join in our hymn of celebration, number 121, We'll Build a Land. that concludes our service. Thanks for being here. And remember, at 11:30, choir rehearsal right here in the fellowship hall, pathways to membership down at the lower level. Thank you.